The next day, I am in DeKalb County, and I arrive early to the Jim R. Miller Park. This is a ballot processing facility. Here's Mr. Miller. It's January 5th. I check out the facility around 5 a.m., and then find a place to perch and wait for it to open. Later that morning, I see Amanda Seeley of CNN sitting in the tailgate of her own vehicle. She's a CNN producer. I ask her why she's out here and not in the facility. She told me they gave her a hard time about getting in. Another reporter, who I believe was Kristol Dixon of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, showed up, and she too was restricted from press duties. They both agreed that this was very restrictive for an allegedly public process on public property. Eventually, both reporters were allowed in to take handwritten notes only. No phones allowed. The typical stuff we have heard about all over the country was happening here. For instance, there is a vote review panel, and Evelina Grant oversaw this process. From one of the reports, January 5th, Sue Marshall sat on the voter review panel for Republicans, and an older unidentified gentleman sat in for Democrats. Evelina Grant oversaw the process between Sue Marshall and the Democrat VRP monitor. Upon reviewing the votes, Sue Marshall wanted to use the entirety of the ballot to discern voter intent, but was instructed several times to only focus on specific areas of each ballot. Sue Marshall remained steadfast throughout the process, insisting on considering the entirety of each ballot. Only judge here was mentioned by Evelina Grant. Evelina Grant stated, "If you can't agree, I need to get a third party." The Democrat VRP member went along with Sue Marshall's idea of considering the whole ballot. So when she says, "If you can't agree, I need to get a third party," she wants Sue Marshall to obey her. She does not want Sue Marshall to consider the entirety of the ballot in order to properly discern the voter intent. The people that were in control that I saw, many of them were just going ham. They were intoxicated with the power of controlling the election. This picture reminds me of something. Oh yeah, let's talk about drop boxes. Later, I watched the Dropbox delivery debacle, and man, what a mess. January 5th. At 7:30 p.m., Dropbox ballots were observed being removed from personal vehicles and carried into the facility with bags, postal bins, and other containers. There was no possible way to observe the process to any effect, as the boundaries kept observers around 100 feet away. January 5th. The Dropbox tally Vincent Bordini received was 2,214 ballots that evening, the 5th. I was told that is for the next day's tally. Janine said she would get us the count, and said, "So I can throw you all out after you got your count." According to Debbie Fisher, Janine said in reference to the Dropbox ballots, "We have 17 Dropboxes. Don't know if all the ballots are there. Couldn't cover them all. Dang it. Should have sent someone else." There were 16 Dropboxes accounted for to the best of my understanding. It was never cleared up if they actually lost an entire Dropbox of ballots or not. The Janine we're talking about here is Janine Evler, and she's the DeKalb County Director of Elections, and she lost a Dropbox. From the most secure election ever! Then we saw something amazing. Allison Schaefer seems to be in charge at this facility, and she seems like a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. When she came to me and these others to observe her do this process, it's my personal opinion she wanted us to watch her because she was uncomfortable with what was about to transpire. This is right out of one of our nightly reports for DeKalb County at the Jim R. Miller Park and Event Center, Tuesday, January 5th, 8:30 p.m. Allison Schaefer, a DeKalb County election employee, informed Vincent Bordini, Debbie Fisher, Drew Sexton, and 2 Democrat observers that a file name didn't look right on a USB thumb drive and asked if we wanted to see her get new results. The above-mentioned group met at Scanner 4 in Hall C of the Jim R. Miller Park and Event Center and were met by an IT worker wearing a gas mask and a phone holster who I assume was a Dominion employee. Side note, we called this dude Gas Mask Man because he never properly identified himself. The USB drive in question was already inserted into the scanner, its computer. Allison Schaefer took control of the scanner's mouse and followed Gas Mask Man's instructions. Gas Mask Man said, "Right-click USB, Forms, Start, Quick Format." Gas Mask Man then said this process clears everything off. An interrupted action error showed up on the next transfer attempt. Interrupted action errors are common when an item being copied can no longer be seen by the operating system. Upon seeing the interrupted action error, Allison Schaefer remarked to Gas Mask Man that this is not the one with the issues. Allison then said the same message was coming up over at, and Allison trails off. aware that we are listening. Gas Mask Man quickly responded, possibly. The dude was cutting her off. At Gas Mask Man's instruction, Allison then manually attempted to move a TIFF file. A TIFF file is an image file that contains no data. There is no explanation provided as to why this was attempted. Once Allison succeeded in getting the 29,938 items to transfer, Vincent Bordini asked Allison if these 29,938 items were ballots. Allison answered yes. It is Vincent Bordini's understanding that the data side of the ballots consist of a TIFF and a data part combined together that can be read by Dominion's proprietary software. Vincent Bordini asked Gas Mask Man about the interrupted action error from a few moments ago. Gas Mask Man denied seeing it and became obtuse, stating, "I don't understand what you were asking." No explanation was provided for the error. 29,938 new items were copied onto the USB drive. Vincent Bordini asked Allison if these 29,938 items were ballots. Allison answered yes. We're talking about 30,000 ballots that were just destroyed and replaced right before my eyes. Our eyes. There are observers with me. How does anyone on this planet know that those votes were replaced with the identical votes? A bunch of people just watched 30,000 ballots get destroyed and 30,000 ballots get replaced. Our leadership, the Secretary of State of Georgia, our national leadership, they're all okay with this process. It's not secure at all. The entire 2020 election was like this. There's no diligent review of this data. They're just blowing through the files, passing them around. They're doing their job. They have no idea what the hell data they're moving. And that's in regard to people who are 100% honest about this process. It gets better. On January 6th, at approximately 6:30 to 7 p.m., Allison Schaefer informed Vincent Bordini, Chris Sheave, and two Democrat observers that the scanned ballot numbers were 100,663 that were sent to Whitlock. She then stated the 20,000 plus ballots off of Scanner 4's thumb drive did not go to Whitlock. There was no explanation given as to why they held them for another day and night. Whitlock was the headquarters for the DeKalb County Elections and Registration Office. It was on Whitlock Avenue. So I want to go back to the conversation where Allison had said to him, the same message was coming up over at, and Gas Mask Man cut her off, said possibly. She's referring to a similar error where they have to recopy ballots, destroy and recopy ballots. We believe this incident happened in DeKalb County, and we believe this because we met a reporter who recorded the audio of it. Unbelievably, this error is happening in the same night in another place with thousands of ballots. I want you to listen for a few things in this recording we're going to play. They're going to talk about memory cards, and they mean thumb drives. So when you hear memory card, just think about a thumb drive. She's going to talk about new results, getting accurate results. This is their language. When the elections employee is asked by the reporter, do the memory cards glitch frequently? The lady says it's not a common issue. Let's just say it like that. The audio is a little rough because the reporter has to conceal her recording device because, people don't want any of this getting out.
Hey, ma'am, did you have an update?
They are finishing up the last location. They're on that last box of that last location, about halfway through that box. So I would say another maybe 30 minutes at the most.
What happened to the memory card?
It just wouldn't read into the system. Nothing.
And it held it up. How long did it hold up the vote
Well, we're still counting.
calculation? So like an hour you had to stop because of the memory card
We didn't
glitch?
have to stop anything. Nothing stopped it.
Okay.
Going to it wouldn't read. So in order to get results and give accurate results, we wanted to scan everything again.
So does the memory card glitch frequently or once in a while?
It's not a common issue, just to say it like that.
We never got a number from DeKalb County about how many thousands of votes were blown away and replaced. Between the incident we covered, this incident that was recorded, and possibly that alleged missing drop box, that ballot box, they had 17, but they only recovered 16. But we're way into thousands, tens of thousands of ballots, maybe 50,000 ballots, who knows? And that's the point. They don't know. They couldn't answer you if you put them on trial tomorrow. So along with some observers, I witnessed one of these errors where they blew away and replaced ballots. We have audio recording of another one. We assume that the conversation between Allison and the Gas Mask Man was about that DeKalb error. If it wasn't, that means there's a third one of these errors happening at this time. How many of these errors really happened? See, what happened was DeKalb County didn't follow Amber McReynolds' instructions. Amber McReynolds, the CEO of National Vote at Home Institute, and Jennifer Morrill, a CISA expert, wrote this manual just for DeKalb. They did it under a beard company paid with Zuckerbucks called the Elections Group. I mean, ladies, come on, get a more creative name. So at this point, we see a Colorado activist group has their fingerprints all over this election. They have come all the way to invade Georgia to get a certain result, county by county, from the most secure election ever. And please understand, this is the runoff election. Carter Jones' report said the 2020 election was much sloppier. So while I'm busy in other counties, Ralph Jones found the UOCAVA ballots. And he gets himself in trouble, so we're going to talk about that now. Ralph Jones' election operation erected barriers around the area they were working the UOCAVA ballots. So we couldn't see anything. This was brought to court, and a judge shot this down. They had to remove the barriers, let the observers move closer, etc., etc. I'm going to play a video from Project Veritas who actually recorded it, and you can see this for yourself. Again, the audio is rough because recording devices have to be concealed.
See that you're aware we were successful in court today. Came to an agreement.
Okay.
We sued you, and one part of the agreement was that the barriers come down and we're allowed to be within 10 feet of any DeKalb County operation. I have a copy of the consent decree for you, signed by the judge on the back, that we're allowed to be within 10 feet of the county operation.
What does the paperwork say to make it official? Oh, the judge.
The judge on the back. It's two-sided, sir. The judge was pissed today. With the lack of transparency. Very.
And they believe that ballot harvesting is taking place here?
I can say that the process has not been transparent at all. That, to use Ralph's own word, he described it as he was using secrecy.
We have to rearrange our setup so that they can see, okay? The ballot's supposed to be a secret ballot.
But we're here to
There's no name associated.
No name associated with the ballot, but the actual casting of the ballot should not be seen by the public. We interpret it as it's an open process. We're showing you that our process is open to the public. I'm trying to protect the privacy of the vote itself. That's all.
The judge said there needed to be transparency. So if you're turning the screens away,
I was told, just tell you what I was told. I was told
Who said that?
the Secretary of State, told me.
The Secretary of State told me that. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensberger, fired Ralph Jones. He pretty much forced Ralph to resign. Mr. Integrity counts, and he told him to put up those barriers. It is amazing that in the Carter Jones report, this incident was held against Ralph Jones as an example of his poor leadership. But the Secretary of State, according to Ralph Jones, told him to do it.
so far there's been zero transparency to the
Like say I had a plastic bag.
Correct.
I could just go and take the ballots and behind these blue things and put them in the plastic
Correct.
bag
Exactly.
and just walk out of here.
Or change people's votes all on your own. It's how they ended up in the November election with a batch of, out of DeKalb County, I'm in Fulton. It was either DeKalb or Fulton. They had a batch of 900 military and overseas ballots. All 900 military overseas ballots went for Biden. Every single one.
At the end of this clip, you see Sean Kilbane saying all 900 military and overseas ballots went for Biden. Every single one. It was actually 950 military and overseas ballots that went for Biden. This was fact-checked by USA Today. And their headline says, fact check. Georgia military overseas ballots not evidence of election fraud. I suppose it's evidence of the most secure election ever. This 900 ballots figure comes from an audit file. It's actually 950 ballots for Biden, 0 for Trump. Then there is another batch that can be seen, 130 votes for Trump, 0 for Biden. But everyone avoids explaining the chain of custody for these batches. How do batches of ballots turn up favoring just one candidate? You got to know who sorted them. If you don't know who's sorting your ballots, you have a problem. You have problems like this right here. Is this a double entry? This is an entry on the same audit file all the media were talking about when they fact-checked the 130 and 950. This is a 446 vote gain for Biden right here. No media talked about this on the audit file. They all looked at it. They all looked at the 130. They looked at the 950. They ignored this double entry error. One entry is for election day voting. The other entry is for absentee by mail, identical entries. The B is lowercase for the second entry, and they changed it to election day. The other one is left as absentee by mail, or vice versa. I don't know which one's fake and which one's real, but it's a deliberate entry because it's a different letter. It's a lowercase b. They changed the category of the vote, switching it from election day votes to absentee by mail, or vice versa. The corporate media looked at this audit file. They saw the same stuff I'm showing you here, and they ignored it. And they said, this is a fact check and it shows there's no evidence of election fraud. They ignored this double entry. This is what they did. I don't know what to say about it. It's gaslighting 101. There's other entries in there that are kind of questionable, and the way they've been having people do the scavenger hunt through audit files is a ridiculous red herring. You're simply going to look at votes they accepted already that shouldn't be there in the first place, like this 446 votes I just showed you. The American people as a whole are losing faith in their election system. And with all this secrecy and these shenanigans going on, it's easy to see why.